Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. Change your life with the movement therapy. One of her advocacy, no other than Miss Vanessa Leone.
Hello.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Vanessa. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. I I'm a self-confessed book nerd, as you can see from the shelf behind me, and I jumped at the chance to come and talk about movement therapy and what that means. It's essentially using movement or exercise to make your life better. And I think understanding that movement can be different to exercise and training is really important because I think exercise for a lot of people can be a barrier, but movement anyone can do. And movement can change your life, even if you're just doing something really small. So that's my ethos. That's what I love to help people with. And that's what I would love to share with the world.
Miss Vanessa Leone, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. What psychological mechanisms make movement such as a powerful therapeutic tool?
That's a great question. I think for a lot of people, exercise is scary and it can be unattainable because they feel like they have to look like an Instagram, influencer or lift really heavy weights. But the psychology behind movement is something that you do every day. We're doing movement right now. I'm a big hand gesturer. That's movement for me
Yes.
every day. But you move by cleaning your house. You move, taking your rubbish to the bins outside, and really small movements that you can do in between your day to day aren't so scary. They're not so unattainable. They help you feel good. I like to educate people on lots of different movements that feel good in their bodies because you're more likely to do something that feels good than something that feels horrible. Nobody wants to be sore and tired all day from, lifting heavy weights or doing that all the time. So if you can feel good, you're more likely to do it.
Definitely feel good, people, just like Miss Vanessa. Why is it movement often more effective than talk therapy for trauma and stress?
Really cool. It can be more effective for some people because talk therapy is very deep. It's very invasive in its own way. Whereas movement, you're only asking the question to yourself whether you can do it. It's very self-empowering. And I often think that your emotions, your thoughts, everything that's happened to you in your life is stored in your body. And movement can release or let go of past trauma, past experiences, past stories that you're telling yourself about your body and about your mind. They can live in your body. I'll use an example. I have clients who have had accidents before, severe car accidents or broken bones. And the story that they tell themselves is that they're broken or that they can't do certain things because that's what they've been told, or they're scared to do it. That fear lives in their body. And so by taking movement really slowly, you can start to override those psychological triggers, those psychological barriers that we create for ourselves in our mind that then become a barrier for the rest of your life. And that's why movement is so powerful when it comes to emotion and psychological therapy, just as much as talk therapy. I won't say it's better, but I could be biased, but I think they're just as powerful because the expectation is that you don't have to heal, right? There's
Yes.
you're not there to heal your past psychological trauma, but you can, you can free yourself from those stories that you tell yourself.
Empowering answer, Miss Vanessa. Truly, truly empowering. Let's talk about mind body connection. How does movement help process emotions that get stuck in the body?
So the body is about vibration. The body is a water being. We've got 70% water in our body.
Yes.
And when you watch, water ripple, little dot, something falls in the water and the water ripples. That's what movement does in our body. Every time you move, you have these little ripple effects that happen all throughout your body. You can't just move, your pinky finger. That's happening and rippling all throughout your body. So when we talk about moving forward, when we start to think about how our body processes movement, if I ask you to show me what fear or anxiety looks like in your body, you can assume a posture that looks like fear, that looks like anxiety. And it's usually, my shoulders are really hunched and my head is down and I'm trying to protect myself. And that's not a learned position. That's a biologically driven practice. That's something that happens in the body. Something outside of your body triggers anxiety or fear, and your body reacts. And this is really, really important because this is where you can't separate your mind and your body. Emotions are real things. And when you have an emotion, that gets triggered in your physical body, whether you think that it's being triggered or not. So, what you do every day is what influences your body. The other way it works is that you've got obviously the brain to the body, but most people don't realize that it works the same way. It works body to brain. And there's been research that shows that if you sit down and we call this like a low esteem position, so poor posture all day, maybe, you're typing on your laptop or you're over your desk or you're over your phone, those postures look like anxiety. They look like fear. They look like low esteem postures. So your body might actually be triggering those feelings of anxiety and stress and fear, even if you're not feeling them, because it's a two-way street when it comes to those receptors, your brain and your body into your brain. So movement is powerful because it takes you out of these postures. It makes you explore different areas of your body that you haven't yet explored, and it can change your mood instantly. So just by adopting a bigger position for a few minutes, you can take yourself out of anxiety. You create a hormonal response in your body, and that's the true power of movement that we really forget about, and I find it so fascinating.
What's the relationship between specific movements and nervous system regulation?
Cool, yeah. So like I mentioned there, you can adopt some really big postures,
Yes.
which are going to kind of upregulate that nervous system. And when we talk about upregulate or downregulate, upregulating, people often think that it's a bad thing. Upregulating looks like focus, it looks like readiness, it looks like attention. Upregulation is really, really useful if we're on a podcast and I'm talking to you. I don't want to be in this kind of down position here. I want to be up and open and being able to be broadcasting my emotions to people and my state of mind and what I have to say clearly and confidently. And so by adopting positions, I could be lying down on the floor, I could be standing up. By opening up my posture, I can up regulate my nervous system to make me more attentive, to make me more focused. We can do this through breath as well, because that's also linked. But then on the other side of the coin, if I want to calm down. I've been on my phone all day. I've been attentive in meetings. I've been present and big, and now I want to make myself smaller. Well, now we can do that too. Now I can just employ, maybe some really small shoulder movements, bringing myself forward and taking some like lighter, slower breaths that down regulate my nervous system and allow me to step into my body in a safe way and explore what's feeling stiff and explore what doesn't feel like it's moving so well. And that makes me calm, not necessarily in a low state, but it just makes me calm. It makes me open to receive the next set of instructions that my brain or my body wants to be able to pass down on me, or the next experience that's coming towards me. The movement is a super powerful regulator of that, because of this system in our body that is completely forgotten about, this called fascia. And that's very linked to the book that I absolutely love.
Yes, indeed. And can you explain how movement creates biochemical changes that support mental health?
Yeah. So this is like a super fun chain reaction. When we move big, like I mentioned before, what happens is we get a cascade of huge release of hormones and emotions that come through as well. So we get really good hormones releasing, like serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine. And these are our focus, feel good, repeat hormones. These are the ones that we really want to happen, so that we know to do that behavior again and again. And the more connected you feel when you're doing your movement, so maybe you're in a group, or maybe you feel really connected to your body and you're in a really good mood, the more heightened those hormones will be. But if you walk into your workout and you're really dreading it, and you haven't slept and you feel terrible, or you lift too heavy and your back hurts, those movements aren't going to start that cascade of really, really good hormones that will allow you freedom. The other biomechanical aspects that not many people realize is, I mentioned that our body is a system of water. So when we move, we actually push water around our system. And this is really important because water flushes waste and toxins and all of these horrible things out of our body. And the system that does this is called the lymphatic system. And it's the only system in the body that doesn't have its own pump. So like the heart's a pump and it pumps blood around the body. Lymph system doesn't have a pump. Muscles are your pump. So without that muscular pump, you're just getting all of this horrible waste that's stagnant, that sits in places that it really shouldn't be, and can create toxicity, brain fog, feelings of sluggishness. So when we start to move, not only do we get the hormonal effect, but we get this mechanical pumping effect that then pushes these horrible, toxic waste products out where they should be. They get taken back out to the bloodstream, and then the kidneys can process them and get rid of them for us. And that's a really big thing that's not happening as much anymore, because people are so much more stationary and sedentary than they used to be. So these mechanical pumps are kind of laying dormant and not being utilized very well.
Let's talk about the practical applications, Miss Vanessa. What are simple movements can someone to do their desk to immediately reduce stress?
Yeah, it's a great one. I like to put my hands on top of the kitchen counter when I'm making a cup of tea, and I'll just do some really slow, like, squats. I call them sit and reach. So I pretend I've got a chair behind me and I'm just going to come up and down nice and slowly, and I ask my body the question, like, how are my hips moving? What's going on? And the squat is one of the most uh like in our bodies, it's the most biologically rooted movements that we can do, because we really need to squat up and down for pretty much everything in life. One of my favorite ones that, again, we don't do a lot of, which is really good for upregulation, I call it kangaroo hops.
Hmm.
Or bunny hops, depending on what continent you live on, because obviously
Yes.
I'm from Australia. But standing with your feet together, and you literally just kind of like hopping up and down on the spot. And I talked about the mechanical pump. Well, this really gets that, not only the blood flow going, but that lymph that like pumps it all around your body. It'll flush it around. That one's really good if you need to wake up. Don't worry about having a cup of coffee. Just stand next to your desk and bunny hop for like 30 seconds. You will feel completely different.
Let's do the bunny hop, people. Or the kangaroo hop, for
Kangaroo
sure.
hop if you're in
Yes.
Australia.
Yes. So, how do you customize movement therapy for different emotional states like anger versus sadness?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, emotions are a call to action. So we have to ask our body what that call to action is for you. And for most people, anger is an emotion that they're not usually allowed to express. And anger is a really important emotion. But if you think about what anger feels like, or maybe what it looks like, it can be quite aggressive, obviously, which the name suggests.
Yes.
And I'll give you a practical example. So over COVID, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of stress that needed to be released. And one of the most cathartic things that I got my clients doing was grabbing like one of their pillows off their couch and slamming it against another pillow, or slamming it against the floor, or slamming it against their bed, just repeatedly. And that was a physical outlet for that kind of anger that was building up in them, because anger is, again, it's a call to express something, it's a call to move, it's a call to action. And we often repress anger, which is, I think, potentially why we have so many angry people online, just trolling comments away and things. But
True.
it's a really, useful tool. And if you think about it traditionally, like boxing or martial arts, that's a really great safe way to channel your anger. But sadness is really hard to move in, because sadness, you feel like you want to collapse, like you want to fold down, and you just want to be small. And so I think that when it comes to something like sadness or grief, movement to music is really, really beautiful for me. Any kind of music, any music that connects with you, that uplifts you. Um, so for me, it would be like I'd put on some music and I would take myself for a walk if I'm feeling sadness, or if I'm feeling really like down, and I didn't want to do anything, because music has that way of taking your mind outside of where it currently is. It brings you back to where you were when you were listening to that music. And then once your brain has kind of switched out of its sadness or grief or whatever you want to call it, now everything can start to move and flow a little bit more. And you still might feel sad, but now that outlet is there, and then you can start to feel your body move. And if that comes out in tears, maybe you're listening to a really sad song and that helps motivate you, that's perfect. Your body needs that outlet, obviously, right then and there to get moving. I actually interviewed someone once who talks about when he runs when he's sad, and he'll see
Wow.
him like running and crying as he's running, because it's just an expression of freedom, and he just allows it to get his emotions out. And I thought that was really powerful. So the cool thing is that when you find an outlet for your emotion in terms of movement, it's very powerful, and it can really help to regulate your emotion and your psychological state.
Very well said, Miss Vanessa. Truly, truly empowering. And what is your step-by-step process for using movement to work through anxiety?
Yeah, cool. I think for me, I work one-on-one with clients. And for me, it's about trust, and it's about creating movement that feels good. And I alluded to this before. When we go to the gym or when we go to an exercise class, we often associate that with hard and maybe feeling like we can't breathe, or like my muscles are burning, and we have this association, and they're not bad. But I think that we don't often think that movement has the potential to feel good just as we move. And I really want to teach people that. So for me, nearly everyone I see has anxiety at some stage, whether they start with it or they've had a bad day and they come to me with that. But the key to anxiety is connection. It's connection with someone else, and it's connection to your body. So when you connect to your body, you take away the chatter. Anxiety is another call to action. Anxiety is just your body trying to figure out what the next best step is. It doesn't know what the next best step is. So movement's a beautiful step when you're anxious, because you're giving your body an outlet to express that anxiousness in a safe way. And, I have a few movement practices that you can see on my YouTube that will allow you, when you're anxious, to just like return to your body, and it cuts out that chatter. But connection, I think, is really important. Connection to your body, or connection to someone, like we're connecting right now.
Yes. Connected people. And Miss Vanessa, as a movement therapist, what are your short term and long term goals?
Oh, short-term goals are to just continue helping people feel good. It's what I love to do. It's what I've done for most of today. My clients come in, they come to class, or they see me one-on-one, and they leave with a smile on their face, and they leave feeling better. My long-term goals are to have movement therapy as something that lives alongside the practices of yoga or Pilates. There's these big names of movement practices out there that people recognize really, really well. And I think that there needs to be something else out there that can help people fall in love with movement. And I think that movement therapy is that.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Vanessa. Looking forward for more success. And what
Thank you.
will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a movement therapist?
Well, if you're going to be a movement therapist, or if you're interested, this is the book that set me off as
Yes.
a movement therapist. It's a textbook. It's a little bit dry, I'm not going to lie, but it changed my life, because it made me rethink everything I thought I knew about the human body. And when you come to the conclusion that you don't know anything, you're always going to continue to seek out information. You're always going to seek out other people to work with and learn from and aspire to be similar to, because we don't know the answers. I have no answers, but I have some solutions for some people. And that book, Anatomy Trains, helped me to see that it doesn't matter that I don't have the answers, because nobody does. I just find a way for each person who comes in front of me to be able to help them in some way. And that's what's really important. And, if you're not passionate about it, don't become a movement therapist because it's really hard.
It's really, really hard. Oh my goodness. So, Miss Vanessa, thank you for that advice. So, can you please recommend another book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah. So aside from that one, I I encourage any professional to have a read of Think Again. And the reason I really love Think Again by Adam Grant is we become so complacent in our own practice of what we do. And especially if it works or it's working, we often don't question ourselves, and we don't question why we do things a certain way. And the beautiful thing about Think Again is it helps you, again, to step outside of what you do and question it in a really good way. Like, is this really working for me? Can I do this better? How do I work well for the people who are in front of me, or how do I not work well for the people in front of me? And are there things to learn? And I think the other thing about this book, a lot of self-help books are really dry and serious and can be quite hard to read. But I found this book so lighthearted and really easy to read with really great stories and examples, and it just makes it so much easier to digest and to put it into practice. So I highly recommend Think Again.
Yes, indeed. And thank you for your recommended books, Miss Vanessa. And what do you say to people who feel too uncoordinated for movement therapy?
I get this a lot. Yeah, people say, I'm uncoordinated. I can't do that. It's a story that we tell ourselves because movement lives inside every individual. It's a language that we all start with as a child. We learn how to play, we learn how to walk, we learn how to bound, how to jump, how to climb, how to do all of these things. And when you become a teenager and adult, we turn it off and we forget how to speak this language. And some children were taught well to continue to speak this language, and that's who we'd call coordinated, perhaps. And other children weren't taught so well. They were repressed or they weren't encouraged as well as they could be. But that little playful child who wants to move is still within people. So, the best way to become coordinated is to find something that you really love, something that you're not afraid to be bad at initially, and that something that you can connect with a coach. I mean, if a coach is just going to yell at you and tell you that you're bad, they're a horrible coach. They're not for you. Your coach should be supportive and encouraging and nurturing, and those are the kinds of people that will help you move further in your life rather than someone who is only going to tell you you're bad at something. Occasionally I have to tell my clients that that wasn't a good rep, but it's always followed by encouragement. You know what I mean?
You can do it.
Exactly.
So, what's the minimum effective dose of movement for mental health benefits?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I have a daily movement practice that I encourage most of my clients and followers to engage in, which takes about 3 to 8 minutes, depending on how long you want to do it for. And I think that some kind of movement every day is going to keep you and your mind and your body and your soul in a better place, whether that's a daily walk or a daily movement practice or both. But if you're not, I mean, everyone has to move their body at some stage during the day. You have to get up and get out of bed and go to the bathroom. So if you can't add just a little bit more movement into something that you're already doing, you're continuing to disconnect and disconnect and disconnect from your body further and further and further. And it doesn't take long to help it go in the other way. If you just add a little bit more, add a little bit, 30 seconds, even, like I said, making a cup of tea, do some squats at your kitchen counter. There's not a lot of barriers to that, and movement is so essential for our experience as a human. So I would encourage everyone to find their daily movement practice. You can jump onto my YouTube and check mine out, or you can, create your own and just find what feels good. But I think that it's super important.
Super important indeed. And Miss Vanessa, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and mental health 101 Love Letters in third season, and my movie 101 review music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Vanessa, how can someone start a movement practice when dealing with depression or low energy?
I would say this is the hardest one because, by definition, depression is the opposite of movement. It's the complete other side of the spectrum to what you want to do. And I never want to diminish someone's experience because everyone's experience is their own and it's very, very challenging. I think the best and only way to think about it when you're in that state is think of it as just one at a time. You know, if you're in bed and you can't get out of bed, it's like, okay, can I roll over? And then you can
Mm.
just roll over. And then, okay, so I rolled over. I could do that. Can I, take my arm out? And you literally just ask yourself the question step by step. And you find that by asking yourself these questions, you will find the right amount of movement that works for you, because movement in itself produces happy hormones. So they're incredibly effective for depression. They're incredibly important for helping you take yourself out of that low state and moving yourself into something that's you don't even have to be happy, but something that allows you to be more functional and something that allows you to become more yourself. So ask yourself one question at a time. Can I put my shoes on? Can I go stand at the front door? Can I open the front door and walk to the end of the apartment block? There's just one baby step at a time. And every time that you succeed, that's a huge win for you that day.
Miss Vanessa Leone, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, yeah. So feel free to have a look at my website or jump on my YouTube and Instagram, follow along. I will be posting much more bite-sized movement therapy for everybody to join in with.
Yes, and also your podcast, Miss Vanessa.
And my podcast is called Meant to Move. Thank you for the reminder. The season's finished for now, but there's 28 episodes for you to digest and listen to some amazing experts talk about how incredible our human body is.
Yes, indeed. Yes, people, let's support Miss Vanessa Leone because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering advocacy to come, more and more empowering episodes for the podcast itself, for sure, and more empowering movement to come. So, Miss Vanessa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I really loved it.
More to come, people. See you soon.